So Donald Trump sued his own IRS, so his own government, for $10 billion. And then he settled with his own government for $1.77 billion to create this slush fund to pay Trump allies. Except the judge in the case said, wait, whoa. Is this even a case? You guys reached a deal outside of the court with yourself? We don't even know if this is a real case or not yet. We got some questions here. And the judge asked that because a shit ton of other judges went, hey, no, stop that. Listen, my friend Legal Dad breaks it down better, obviously. So I had to grab one of his videos to show you. But pay attention to what he's saying here, that the court is saying you don't just get to file some frivolous fucking lawsuit and then settle with yourself without it ever coming through here.
The president's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS has been settled, in part by an agreement to create a $1.8 billion fund for the weaponization of the Justice Department, where people, including January 6th rioters, could get paid, and an agreement by the IRS not to audit Donald Trump's or his family's tax records to date. But now the judge in that lawsuit has potentially reopened the case and doesn't seem very happy about it. Let's take a look. This came to life when about 36 former federal judges filed a motion to reopen the case and told the judge, you can do that and ask questions about what's really going on here. The argument from the former judges is that the court should exercise its authority under Rule 60 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure to set aside the judgment in this lawsuit, the settlement, and resume its inquiry into whether there is an actual underlying case or controversy. The judge had already alluded to that. How can you have a case or controversy when the plaintiff, in this case the president, is suing an agency that he controls? It's kind of weird, though, because there's no settlement of record. You have to go to news reports about what's happening to figure out, well, what's happening. The judge goes through a bunch of law, including Rule 11, which requires attorneys and underrepresented parties to sign every court document and certify that they're not filed for an improper purpose, is grounded in existing law, and is not a non-frivolous legal argument. They also need to have evidentiary support. She cites a case that says the purpose of Rule 11 is to deter baseless filings.
Like this one?
And she notes that a judge can impose sanctions on lawyers for advocating a frivolous position, pursuing an unfounded claim, or filing a lawsuit for some improper purpose.
Damn.
She says a party's decision to file a frivolous lawsuit for the sole purpose of forcing a settlement may qualify as such an improper purpose. In other words, the president sued the IRS for $10 billion in order to get this settlement from his own IRS and to protect himself and his family members from action by the IRS. The former judges who filed the motion make allegations that plaintiffs, Trump, voluntarily dismissed this litigation solely to avoid judicial scrutiny of a lawsuit that, quote, was collusive from the start. Amen. And was only filed to provide the imprimatur of legality for an unlawful settlement. The settlement being the slush fund and the agreement not to audit Trump and his family. The judge wants to look into these allegations and has given the plaintiffs until June 12th to file a response. You can see in the second paragraph the three things that she wants to hear about. The judges then get an opportunity to respond by June 19th, a week later. You can't just scam the federal judiciary. Well, you can try, but in this case, they've been found out, and these former judges are going to be a formidable force in this action. It'll be interesting to see what the judge does.
That's amazing to me. That we have a judiciary system that can still hold like that. That the judges, what over 36, can come together and say, wait a minute, man, you have to have a fucking case in order to have a fucking settlement. And we're not sure that you have a fucking case. You sued yourself and settled with yourself out of court? What's to stop any president from doing that in the future? Any president. Doesn't matter who it is. The next president comes in, sues his own government and says, we're going to go ahead and settle. And then just takes $1.8 billion. That's the precedence that's being set. J.B. Pritzker becomes the next president. Gavin Newsom becomes the next president. Pete Buttigieg becomes the next president. Any one of them becomes the next president, and they sue their own government and then force their government to settle with themselves. You people in the red hats are telling me that you're going to be fine with that. Thank God for an independent judiciary.